TGFF, back up for football. Game day. 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 You have tuned in to another episode of Thank God for Football, brought to you by the Fanboys, powered by Greenville Sports Media.
Hello everybody, this is Jay here with Greenville Sports Media for TGFF Game Day. Just wanted to let you know that we're a little under the weather this week. We're going to have a great show, what we can do. We're going to be piecing it together. Sorry that it's going to be a little different than the weeks before, but we want to thank our sponsors, Hyundai of Anderson. Use code HOA24, that's HOA24, and you can get a great deal at Hyundai of Anderson on 28 Bypass in Anderson, South Carolina. Also, Arden's Burger and Grill in Central South Carolina. We want to thank you for all that you do. Go by see Donnie and Angie if you want a great deal on some double-dipped wings, the best burgers you can find. You got to try the Paladin Burger. Really good. Also, we want to thank Upstate Physical Therapy, Pepsi Cola, Point RV at Lake Hartwell, Dubby Energy Drinks, just all of our sponsors. Go see them at greenvillesportsmedia.com, where you'll be able to see TGFF Game Day. We want to thank all of you for joining us. Sorry that this week's a little different. We've had so much going on, but we want to thank you. We're going to start this show off with some great guys that are here each and every week, giving you information about their conferences all over the United States. Because one thing we believe at Greenville Sports Media is everybody has a right to be able to push their conference and show that, you know what, there's other games other than the SEC, the Big Ten, and the ACC, Power Four. We wanted to give the Southern Conference, the American Conference, and Mountain West, all these conferences a chance to speak. And that's what we're about at Greenville Sports Media. Well, let's get to it. We also want to thank our great producer, Fresh. He does so much for us, and he's going to do a jam-up job tonight trying to piece together this. And we just want to thank each and every person out there that supports TGFF Game Day. We're getting down to the end of the year. We waited so long for it to come. Now it's just about over. So thank you for joining us this week. Sorry we're a little different this week, but we are all just, we want to also give a shout out to John, who does our Sunbelt. Hope you get to feeling better, buddy. And Justin, I tell you what, he's working so hard right now. Want to give a shout out to our host. And just anybody and everybody that's been sick, we're praying for you. Know this is a show that we care about our guys. But thank you to each and every person that supports TGF Game Day each and every week. Now let's get to our lineup of great podcasters and guys supporting their conferences all over the United States. Thank you to each one of you for what you do for us. And hopefully next week we'll be back at full strength. So let's go to Fresh. Take care of us, Fresh. Get us through this week. And thank you for joining us for TGFF Game Day. This is Jay speaking.
Are you looking for a great deal on a car? Look no further than Hyundai of Anderson. That's right, Hyundai of Anderson. Go by, see Herschel. He will treat you right. Tell him that GSM sent you. That's right, Greenville Sports Media. Tell him that Greenville Sports Media sent you, and you will get a great deal. I'm talking about one of the best deals you can ever get. That's Hyundai of Anderson. That is on Highway 28 Bypass, right at the corner of Clemson Boulevard. Go see everybody over at Hyundai of Anderson. I just bought my new truck, and I'll be showing it to you each and every week. That's right, I bought one myself, and you can't believe the great deals they got at Hyundai of Anderson. They are a part of the Greenville Sports Media Network now, and we appreciate them being one of our sponsors because they give the great deals. At Hyundai of Anderson, go by, see them today, tell Herschel, and tell all of them that Greenville Sports Media sent you, and they will give you not one, but two great special deals. That's right. We'll even throw in something. That's right. Greenville Sports Media is going to take care of you. Make sure you go by see Herschel today.
Hello, everybody. This is Chris Miller from the Coach's Box Call, like we see a podcast, and we are previewing Week 13 of SEC football. Here's the thing, though. SEC football right now, this is that week where they pretty much kind of have a bye week while they're playing their teams on their schedule because the games are insane. It's like everybody's going to take a break and not play anybody that's very tough. Okay, so after beating up on each other, they're going to go pick up a bunch of like terrible teams to play. This week we've got UMass going to Georgia. Georgia is 42-point spread, so at negative 42. I would say that it's going to be a whopper there. UTEP is traveling to Tennessee. Tennessee's favored by 40.5 points. Wolford's playing at South Carolina. I didn't put a line down on that one. South Carolina is the hottest team in the SEC right now, winning 4 straight. So I think that's an easy pick. Even Louisiana Tech playing at Arkansas. Arkansas is favored by 22 points. That's also one of those games. It's like, well, there you go. Take the easy way there. So those games, pretty much blowouts. I think we're pretty safe there. I know I have not been great at picking games. It's very hard to pick in the SEC. It's very hard because the SEC teams tend to show up and play even when you don't expect them to. So those games, get those out of the way. Even Kentucky traveling to Texas. Texas is favored by 20 points. I feel like that's going to be a pretty easy win for the Longhorns, and they're going to continue to ride out their schedule heading for the SEC championship. No matter what Lane Kiffin or Sarkisian say, that should be pretty interesting as it pans out. Speaking of Lane Kiffin, Ole Miss is going to Florida this week. They're favored by 12. Florida, I'm not a big Florida fan. I vocalized that. They have been playing a little bit better in recent weeks. I still don't see them having the firepower to hang with Ole Miss. Ole Miss has also won 3 in a row. Florida is still, they're sitting at 5-5 and 3-4 in the conference. So I don't see this as being a game that Ole Miss is going to lose. Dart's going to have I feel like Dart's going to have a pretty good game, and they're trying to get their opportunity to play in that SEC championship game, but they've got some road to make up. Plus, they have to have somebody else lose a couple. So I'm picking Ole Miss in that one. Looking down the list of games, there's not very many games that aren't just overwhelming favorites. Excuse me, by Vegas odds. You've got Alabama going to Oklahoma, and Alabama's favored by 13.5. Alabama's a hard team to pick just because they're kind of up and down. Even though they've won their last 3, and they're 8-2 overall, they're trying to find a way into the college football playoffs. I feel like there's going to be a handful of teams from the SEC that are going to make it, but they don't want to be a 3-loss team, and they've got to keep finding wins. They're also 4-2 in the conference. Oklahoma, they're having a very hard time in the SEC. There's plenty of great memes and videos out there about Oklahoma learning what it's like to play in the SEC. Now, the good news for them, they are playing in Norman, so they do have a chance. I just don't feel like they have a chance, considering they found a way to lose against Mizzou, who's obviously struggling at times. But Oklahoma's 1-5 in the conference. I think they're toast in this one, and they're going to end up falling 5-6. I think Alabama's going to go in and get the win. Vandy at LSU, 2 unranked teams that have been ranked for a little bit this year. Obviously, LSU was sitting a lot higher. They were, I believe, a top 10 team. But again, you've got to put some wins together. And LSU being 3-3 in the conference, 6-4 overall, and they've lost their last 3. They're not playing very good football. This is an opportunity for Vandy, who's literally has the same record as they do in the conference and overall, to pick up a win. And that would be huge. Now, going to Death Valley and playing, pretty tough. LSU's favored by 7.5 points. I still think LSU comes out on top on this one and finds a way to end their skid, because it's very tough to win on the road in the SEC. And as good as as good as Vandy has played at times this year, that's a tough place to play. I don't care if they're unranked or whatever. They're tough to play at home. So I feel the Tigers are going to come away with a win. Again, I could be wrong. I've been wrong quite a bit this year, because the SEC is just You just never know. Also, LSU's 4-1 at home, and Vandy's 2-2 on the road this year. So I look for LSU to take home the win. Probably the closest game by the spread this week is Texas A&M at Auburn. A&M sitting 5-1 in the conference, having a shot for the SEC title game. They're 8-2 overall, 15th in the nation, and they've got to go and play at Auburn. Auburn's not a very good football team. They're 1-5 in the conference. They're 4-6 overall, but A&M doesn't necessarily have the flashy offense. It's just going to put people away unless they're playing Mizzou. And look for this to be a close game. I don't know if it's 2.5 close. And I definitely don't feel like Auburn has a shot to win, even though they are playing at home, but they do have a better record because A&M is a good, solid football team. So that is the closest game by the spread this week in the SEC, which is, given the other games, obviously that's easy to see. So I think A&M is going to pick up the win. It'll probably be a close game, but I think they'll definitely cover the points. And then finally, we have number 23, which I don't know how they stayed in the top 25. The Missouri Tigers, who are 7-3, but they're 3-3 in the SEC. They are playing on the road at Mississippi State. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, Mississippi State is at the very bottom of a very large pool of SEC teams. Like if there was relegation, Mississippi State is on their way to being out and being in the Sun Belt or somewhere else. They have no reason to even compete with Mizzou. But Mizzou is only favored by 7.5 this week. But obviously, it should be a close spread because Mizzou's offense hasn't figured out how to get the ball to Luther Burden in space. Don't understand why. Brady Cook has been absolutely terrible and or hurt. Pine, yeah, he had a good moment against Oklahoma, even though he struggled, and he definitely struggled in the Alabama game. Looked like he never played before, even though he played at Notre Dame. So I'm very curious to see how Mizzou plays, especially on the road. They're only 1-3 on the road this year, and they're undefeated at home. So this is not a home game. It's not at Faurot Field. Mississippi State is terrible. I don't see Mizzou losing this game. I see the Mizzou finding a way to keep this thing close within a field goal because they just Mizzou it up. So I am picking the Tigers to win. If they prove me wrong, I might lose my freaking mind. So with that being said, I feel like those are pretty easy picks this week, especially since half the SEC has decided to have their bye week this week and play a bunch of FCS schools that they have no business playing, but I guess to rest their team and not give up a chance for that conference championship bid. But we've got a bunch of teams in the SEC that are vying for that college football playoff spot, and I don't think we're going to get 4 teams in, and that's going to be the thing is there going to be a 3-loss SEC school that makes the college football playoffs this year? Should be interesting to see. Not a lot of like big time games. They're prime time to watch, but still entertaining nonetheless. It's SEC football. Anything can happen. I just feel like anything can happen, especially when they play each other. Not when they play these other little weak, lame, and blind schools, but when they play each other. So this has been the Coach's Box Call like we see it, SEC preview for this week. I'm Chris Miller filling in for Kevin Halley. Thank you guys all for tuning in and being a part of this. If you interested, you can check out our show, the Coach's Box Call. I see a podcast. You can subscribe on YouTube or on the X. You can check us out on our Facebook page. We'd appreciate that and all the support that we have from Greenville Sports. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. And again, we'll see you guys all again next week.
I want to shout out our newest partner, Dubby energy drinks. You know, it's an energy drink. You get the powder, you mix it up at home, but it's better than any of that coffee, any of that energy drink you get. There's no crash, no jitters, no angst. They have a patented neural factor. That's the star of the show. They got brain food. I'm talking taurine, tyrosine, glutamine, more. They only have the best amino acids. Only the best brain benefiting vitamins. I'm talking B3, B12, vitamin C, much more. I'm also talking 150 milligrams of caffeine. So just like your energy, it gives you that kick There's no sugar, no maltodextrin, no fake colors, no dyes, no fillers, no BS. You can go to dubby.gg, dubby.gg. Make sure you use the code REALFRESH. 2 words, code REALFRESH. Get 10% off for your order and support the show.
Big 12 football week 13 is perhaps one of the best conference slates of any league in America this week. We've got a lot to talk about, and I'm excited to do so today. Let me jump right in, because there's 1,000 different matchups we could talk about, but I'm going to try to focus on 3. I'll give you a super quick recap of what's going on team by team in the league. Now, as the stretch winds down, you got 4 teams basically in the running. Technically 9 teams, but it's 4 teams. What are we doing? Arizona State, BYU, Colorado, and Iowa State. The 4 teams competing for a spot in the Big 12 championship. My personal pick, I think BYU gets there. I have no idea who gets there alongside them. I think BYU, Colorado is probably my pick in that sense, but it's going to be a good thing to watch down the stretch. As of right now, these are the games for the slate. You got Arizona at TCU. You got 14th ranked BYU hitting the road, taking on 21st ranked Arizona State. Colorado, 16th ranked Colorado, taking on one of the hottest teams in college football as a whole, the Kansas Jayhawks. If they played like this in September, we'd be having a completely different conversation. Colorado at Kansas, a reminder that game's at Arrowhead Stadium while the booth is getting redone. You got Texas Tech taking on Oklahoma State in Stillwater, UCF at West Virginia, Baylor at Houston, 22nd ranked Iowa State taking on Utah, and Cincinnati rounding out the day against Kansas State in Manhattan. Now, I have 3 games I want to pick. 2 underdogs, 1 favorite in this one. The first one I want to talk about. I think the Kansas Jayhawks beat Colorado. It is one of the biggest games of the season for either team. I know Kansas isn't necessarily playing for its spot in the Big 12 title game, but there's bowl eligibility on the line if they win out. That's not the biggest motivator here. Coach Prime in Colorado is. I've seen it firsthand. Kansas State, everybody was amped up for that game. You go and get a massive win. Every time Colorado comes to your stadium or vice versa, that's the biggest game of the season. I know some fans out there are going to say, well, that's your Super Bowl. It might be. It might not be. I don't think it necessarily is for Kansas. I think the K-State game is probably, if you want to go that argument, but the point is, good opponents that excite you to play have your team firing on all cylinders. Give me the Kansas Jayhawks +3. They're hosting Colorado in an NFL stadium. I think Jalen Daniels is playing the best football of the season for himself right now, and the receivers are unguardable. I think their secondary might be the one in the entire Big 12 that can actively slow down Colorado's passing attack, and if that happens, look out, because Colorado's rushing attack is still not good. Don't let anybody tell you different. They are still not good at running the football. Give me Kansas +3 against 16th ranked Colorado. I like that game outright, but I would take it +3 just to be safe. The second game I want to discuss. This one, another big one here with a 3-point spread. I think BYU gets the Big 12 championship. I talked about it in a piece I was writing for today for, another job I was working. The biggest appeal of this, Arizona State's coming off a win over my unfortunately fraudulent Kansas State football team. They're a good football team. Kenny Dillingham's one of the best coaches in the country. I will not dispute that. But when you start off 9 weeks perfect for BYU and you lose a game, that comeback of, hey, look what can be taken away from us. If we don't execute, we can miss this game entirely after starting 9-0. We cannot get to the playoff. We cannot get to the title game. That is such a massive recruiting pitch, or not a recruiting pitch, but a massive motivational tactic for BYU to have in their back pocket. I will take BYU getting the job done against Arizona State. The third game, not necessarily as important for the week slate, but I think this is a pretty easy one. Give me Texas Tech -4 at Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State, they're just not good. They're not good. Mike Gundy's to the point where everybody on his coaching staff is on the hot seat. Some people even saying, including Mike Gundy, I don't know if I'd go that far, but it's just not a good football team. Texas Tech, they're not great. They make mistakes. They have injuries. They have things going on. Joey McGuire has been a little bit of everything, but I think they're a good football team. I think they're just outside the top 25 in my head. I will take Texas Tech -4 against Oklahoma State. Those are my rapid-fire picks for this week. If you want, you parlay all 3 of them. I think you may win some money this week, folks. But that's going to do it for today's video, and I will talk to you next week as we wind down championship scenarios heading into the last 2 weeks of college football.
Hello everybody, it's your old pal Ralphie, and this week's Sitting Pretty Dog Grooming pick is Indiana over Ohio State. That's right, Indiana over Ohio State is this week's Sitting Pretty Dog Grooming pick of the week.
All right, y'all, this is Run the Damn Ball. This is your host, Daniel Magnus, and we talk Nebraska football, also college football. Today we'll be doing Big Ten football for you guys, just going to give some predictions for the games this weekend. I think a lot of close games on the horizon. A lot of good games just in college football in general, but we'll focus on Big Ten country. I'm a Nebraska fan, so I've been watching Big Ten football we joined the conference in 2011. So we're coming up on like 13, 14 years. So we'll go ahead and jump into it. We got a game tonight that's going to be probably not a great game to watch, but Purdue at Michigan State. I think Purdue actually, I'm going to be honest, I think Purdue could give them a good game, potentially make it really close and interesting. I can't pick them. They're too bad of a football team. Michigan State will win. they'll give them the comfortable maybe 10-point win or so over Purdue. And then there's a lot of close games. I'm going to jump to a game I don't think it's going to be close. Just get it out of the way. Northwestern goes at Michigan. I think Michigan's going to win convincingly. Run game, defense. I think they don't turn it over as much as they were to start out the season. Northwestern's offense just not that anything to mention. They can't force turnovers. They're not any good. So give me Michigan winning this game over Northwestern comfortably. 31-10 is what I see, actually. Next up, okay, we got Nebraska at Wisconsin. I'm a Nebraska fan here. I've been a fan for my whole life. First game I watched that I can remember was probably like a Nebraska-Colorado game back in like 03, 04, something like that. Also, first game I went to was the 05 Alamo Bowl. Actually, Michigan was in Nebraska versus Michigan. Nebraska won on a crazy quintuple lateral stop against Michigan. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. Don't worry about it, though. I think Wisconsin's probably a better team, especially after they almost beat Oregon last weekend. Shut down Oregon's offense to only 16 points. It took some crazy plays for Oregon to win that game. I do think Oregon was still better, though, because Braden Locke likes to turn it over, which I think is why Nebraska could win this game. Nebraska struggles against QBs that can run. If a QB cannot run, like Braden Locke, I think Nebraska has a chance. And I think for some reason, with them being at home, they're going to find a way to win. That's me being a Nebraska fan. I think Wisconsin could very well win as well. But I could get into that game more. If you watch my main podcast on the Damn Ball YouTube, I do, but I'm not going to go too in depth because it's 2 5-5 football teams. So, yeah. The big game of the weekend in the Big Ten, big noon kickoff, Indiana at Ohio State. I really, really want to pick Indiana. That's the fun pick. I just don't. This is the thing. They beat Michigan by 5 at home. And I know like Ohio State barely beat Nebraska, who Indiana blew out, but at the same time, I think Ohio State has these offenses are about equal. I do think Ohio State's wide receiver core is more impressive, and that's going to be the difference. That's my pick here. I think picking talent in this game to win over I think coaching. I think Cignetti's a better coach than Ryan Day. We're going to see that play out in the next 5 or so years. But give me Ohio State by 4 or 7 points, just barely. Yeah, I wish I could pick Indiana. I just don't see it right now. Next up, we got Illinois at Rutgers. I think this is a toss-up, but at the same time, Rutgers, the wide receivers are figuring it out. Monungai's back and healthy. Their defense is tough. I think they find a way to win at home. This is on the road. I think I might pick Illinois. Illinois maximizes like every week they play, almost. Not really against Oregon. They kind of got blown out. But they find a way to maximize at times. I don't think they do that this weekend. I think Rutgers' defense and the run game and just the wide receivers are a little bit better than what Illinois has right now. Give me Rutgers 28-25. Iowa at Maryland. I feel pretty similar about this game as I do Nebraska, Wisconsin. I think Iowa's probably better, but they're down to Jackson Stratton as their starting QB, who was like a third string a month ago. And, based upon injuries, that's who they got. They can't really throw the ball that well. It's all Caleb Johnson as the running back who does like everything for them. And he's probably not 100%. Ashton Genty's probably in a similar boat, like amazing player, but probably just not quite 100% right now, not having as many big runs. So give me Maryland, actually. I think their offense is a little bit more skill. And I think Billy Edwards does throw picks. If Billy Edwards turns over the ball, Iowa's going to win, obviously. But give me Maryland by 4, honestly, like 4 or 7 points. I think it's going to be a really similar score to the Indiana-Ohio State game. Going to be a scrappy game, but give me Maryland, especially because they're at home, too. Penn State at Minnesota. I really, really want to pick. I feel the same way about a lot of these games. I really want to pick Indiana over Ohio State. I really want to pick Minnesota over Penn State. But the problem is, I think Penn State's defense, their run game, and Drew Aller are a little bit better than Minnesota's defense. I think Darius Taylor is probably the best running back in this game, but I don't think Max Brosmer has it in him to go and win this at home. You never know what's going to happen. It's going to be a cold day in Minnesota, but Penn State, I think, is a little bit better, and they'll find a way to win 24-21. And then one more game, USC at UCLA. I think this is a toss-up as well. These teams are really similar. I think UCLA is going to find a way to get to a bowl this season, though. They're 4-6 right now. They need to win this game and then beat Fresno State, which they will anyway, to get 6 wins. I think that they are good enough to be in a bowl, and they're going to beat USC because of forcing turnovers against Jaden Mayava. So, I mean, there were some missed turnovers Nebraska had against opportunities that Nebraska had against USC. And I think UCLA, with their length on defense, Schlesinger or whatever is a great linebacker. I think he's going to make a big play late. They're going to find a way to win a scrappy game, 27-20. Those are my Big Ten picks. A lot of people are also hitting on Indiana, saying they shouldn't be in the playoff if they lose to Ohio State, and they're dumb because the Big Ten, yeah, it's not as top heavy as the SEC, but they play 9 conference games. If the SEC played 9 conference games, then a lot of these teams would have, instead of 8 and 9 wins to finish the season or 10, they would have like 8 or 9 or even 7 wins if they had 9 conference games. So good luck moving to 9 conference games in 2026. SEC, I do appreciate that you're the best conference in football, but I don't appreciate Paul Feinbaum and ESPN just simping for you all the time. So yeah, that's what I got to say about that. Hopefully Indiana wins this weekend. Run the damn ball. Go Big Red.
What's up, party people? It's Cuthbert from Sidelines Army. Thank God for football. I'm here to talk to you about the American. There's so much happening late in the season. Coaches are getting fired. Championship games are getting decided. Let's just jump right into it. Last week's game of the week, Tulane went to Marine Corps Memorial Stadium in Annapolis, standing room only, and they beat the brakes off of the Navy midshipmen 35-0. Now, this was a game where Tulane basically had complete control, and while they weren't able to score at will, they were only up 14-0 at halftime. At no point was Navy within striking distance of being able to take on this Tulane team. Tulane is playing their best football of the year right now. They are not considered to be the best G5 in the country collectively, mostly because of their record. But if we're looking at this week and really these last few weeks in a vacuum, I think Tulane is playing the best football in the group of 5. Darian Mensah really showed out at quarterback. He went 10 for 14, 138 yards, 2 touchdowns in the air, another touchdown for him on the ground. Mekhi Hughes, 22 rushes for 82 yards. Not that impressive, but he did drop another 2 touchdowns. Tulane was up 14-0 at halftime. It felt like, hey, based on the score, Navy could make some adjustments, come back in the second half. Not even close. In the preview for this game, I had stressed the importance of time of possession and how Tulane was really averaging close to 35 minutes a game. And because of that, they're able to control the pace, control the clock, and really exert their will on their competition. That was the story of the game. They had 35 minutes, 47 seconds of time of possession. That leaves Navy with just 24 minutes time of possession. They were not able to mount any real defense. Their offense was completely shut out. They were at like 113 yards on the ground. I mean, Tulane is really playing incredible ball. And to make bad news worse, Blake Horvath for Navy goes down. Now, this quarterback, he was early in the season, he was talked about as a potential dark horse for the Heisman. He was putting up video game numbers. He got injured, really stumbled in that Notre Dame game. Navy had 6 turnovers that game, most of them coming from him. He had an injured hand, maybe an injured thumb. It's being reported differently, but that was a month ago. Before this game, he was maybe questionable. He was having some rib issues, and he got taken down on the 3rd drive of the game, and unfortunately his backup was not able to come in and be effective. Braxton Woodson, he came in as the QB2 for Navy. He struggled. He went 3 for 10 in the air with an interception, 13 rushes, 24 yards. That's not a winning formula. It's unclear if Horvath is going to be back anytime soon. At this point now for Navy, they're playing for the Army-Navy game. Those unis just came out this week. They look slick. I mean, Armies are obviously much, much better, but obviously all in for the Army-Navy game. Navy is bowl eligible. They are going to go bowling this year. So at this point, they've been eliminated from the conference championship discussion, but there's still a lot to play for. So it's unclear if or when Horvath will be coming back. He's dealing with these rib injuries. I'm sure he'll get back on the field at some point, but it might not be anytime soon. And as I said before, the American Championship is now set. So Army was on a bye week, but with Tulane's victory over Navy, we now know that Army and Tulane will be playing each other in the AAC Championship. That's going to be on Friday, December 6th. Now, it's not clear where this is going to be played. Is it going to be in New Orleans, or is it going to be at Michie Stadium in West Point, New York? Now, at this point, both teams are still undefeated in the American Conference. They both have one more game. Tulane is on a bye week this week, and then they are playing Memphis in 2 weeks. Army, who is in our game of the week this week, is playing out of conference Notre Dame, but in 2 weeks, they're playing the University of Texas, San Antonio. Now, assuming both schools go through undefeated in the conference, it's going to come down to their ranking per the college football playoff. And lo and behold, at the time of me recording this, Army is ranked number 19, Tulane ranked number 20. So all of a sudden, Army's out-of-conference game against Notre Dame becomes critically important because the presumption is both of these teams will make it through conference play undefeated, and then it's going to fall to who is ranked higher in the college football playoff. If Army drops to Notre Dame this week, they will obviously drop way down in the rankings. They're probably not even going to be ranked next week in the CFP, and presumably Tulane then hosts the championship. Of course, Tulane still has to get by Memphis, and Army still has to get by UTSA. But we're going to get to that in another week or so. Some other games around the week, the league last week. ECU beat Tulsa. I was recording my video last week during that game, an absolutely wild game. East Carolina takes it 38-31, 3 interceptions, 2 fumbles. Late in the second quarter, Caden Hauser, originally the backup QB on East Carolina, who has come in and become the starter. He's taken the spot from Garcia. He throws an interception. The interception gets overturned. And on the next play, what does he do? He throws a pick 6. This was a fantastic game to watch. It was sloppy. It was messy. It was wild, but it was really, really entertaining. UTSA went to North Texas. They beat them up. They beat them up bad. It was 48-27. Owen McCown, 379 and 2 touchdowns for UTSA. Robert Henry, 20 carries, 168 yards, 2 touchdowns. The Roadrunners are humming. After a really regrettable 1-4 start, UTSA is finding some magic. Now, that game was taking place at the Alamo Dome in San Antonio. They are particularly good there. Thankfully, for my Black Knights, when we see UTSA in 2 weeks, it'll be at Michie Stadium. Hopefully, it's going to be cold. Hopefully, it'll be blustery. And the Roadrunners won't have that home field advantage they've been enjoying. Meanwhile, North Texas, who started the year so hot, who had that offense that was just almost unstoppable. I mean, ask Memphis, ask Tulane, ask some of these teams who played against them. They're really kind of starting to fall apart a little bit. After that Army game, they were hoping maybe they could get a little bounce back. Chandler Morris, he throws 2 interceptions. DT Sheffield, 3 catches for 13 yards. I mean, Sheffield is a guy who on the first 2 plays of scrimmage against Memphis had a 75-yard touchdown reception and a 75-yard rush touchdown. So something's not clicking at North Texas. The offense, maybe they peaked too early. It's unclear. Shane Porter, he did deliver as a running back for North Texas. He came in 13 carries, 193 yards, 3 touchdowns. He's not even their premier running back. He really balled out, but it just wasn't enough. Temple beat Florida Atlantic in overtime, 18-15. You gotta love it when Temple wins and they do it with 6 field goals in overtime. Unfortunately, as we get to the storylines of the conference, it was not enough to save Stan Drayton's job. He is one of myriad American Athletic Conference coaches who were let go this week. We're going to get to that in a minute. USF, Byron Brown did not come back. We do not know if he's going to be back this year. But Bryce Archie, he was able to lead the team. It wasn't through his passing. USF beats Charlotte 59-24, and they do it behind 425 rushing yards. This is Service Academy rushing statistics. Charlotte, they had 4 turnovers. They had 34 minutes time of possession. I'm a time of possession guy. It didn't matter. They just couldn't stop the run. And lo and behold, another victim. Biff Poggi, no longer the coach of Charlotte. Pour one out for the Biffster. We're going to get to that in a minute. Memphis goes to UAB, absolutely slaps them around. Alabama, Birmingham, 34 minutes time of possession, 4 turnovers, 28 total yards rushing. Really sloppy play. Somehow Dilfer has not lost his job yet. Coaches are dropping like flies in the American. Dilfer, he's still there. I mean, I don't want to say he's on the hot seat. I got to say his seat is on fire. Memphis, 300 passing yards, 227. I mean, this is on the ground. This is a balanced and dominant offense. I do think that Tulane is going to have their hands full when they meet Memphis in 2 weeks. So there's still a lot of football to be played in the American, a lot of things to be decided. So we're getting to the storylines. I talked earlier about how the AAC championship is set. Army Black Knights, Tulane Green Wave. Where is it going to be played? TBD. But the other big thing are the coaches. We've now lost 5 coaches in the conference. 3 canned this week. So in October, East Carolina fired Mike Houston. That was after the Army game. About 9 days later, Rice fires Mike Bloomgren. And then this week, on the 17th, the 18th, the 19th, it's a 1-2-3 domino. Temple fires Stan Drayton. FAU fires Tom Herman. And Charlotte, my spirit animal, Biff Poggi, no longer coaching the 49ers. So we're going to see what happens with this AAC coaching carousel. I don't know where these teams are going to be going to get coaches. It's still like relatively early for coaches to be getting fired. So maybe they're going to try and poach coordinators from some other teams. Maybe there's a retread out there, somebody who's looking. Of these jobs, I think probably East Carolina is going to be your most attractive. Personally, I actually think Charlotte would be a really good place to coach. The talent that you're going to be inheriting from Poggi is not the greatest, but there's so much fan support at that school, and that's where you want to be if you're a coach, because the fans, they're already fired up. It's not like going to Rice. It's not like going to Temple, where not only are you rebuilding the team, but you're also trying to rebuild the fan base. So we're just going to see what happens. Maybe these teams are able to find someone who can light a fire and they can be productive next year. In all likelihood, these teams, most all of them are struggling this year. ECU is 3-0 since they fired Houston, but by and large, these are the bottom teams of the AAC. I don't think that they're going to be rising to the championship within a year with a new coach, but I may be mistaken. So let's get down to it. Game of the week. CFP number 19, Army. Number 10, Notre Dame, playing a neutral site game at Yankee Stadium. Now, technically, this is a Notre Dame home game. This week in his press conference, Army coach Jeff Monken said, without hesitation, this is going to be a Notre Dame fan base that is going to be at this game. It doesn't matter that it's at Yankee Stadium. It doesn't matter that it's an hour from West Point. This is going to be a hostile environment for the Black Knights. Army is 0-15 against Notre Dame since 1958, which was the last year that Army was able to beat them. This is really shaping up to be a really, really good game. Army and Notre Dame, they both have top 10 defenses in the country, both in terms of points allowed and yards allowed per game. We're talking about an immovable object and an all-stopping force here with these defenses playing each other. It's going to be really interesting to see how this whole thing shakes out. Army leads time of possession, 34-53 to 30-46. I love that stat. I think that bodes well for Army. Army is plus 11 in the turnovers. Notre Dame, plus 17. These are fantastic defenses. These are disciplined offenses. Army's averaging 4.5 penalties a game. Notre Dame, only 6 penalties a game. These teams are stacking up against each other very, very similarly. Notre Dame obviously is going to have a significant advantage in terms of the talent of their players. Also, and something else that Jeff Monken mentioned in his weekly press conference, Notre Dame has a coaching staff that is full of guys with experience against Army. In 2020, Army played Cincinnati, and the Army offense was only able to muster 3 points. They had a scoop and score on a fumble, but the offense only scored 3 points. Who was the defensive coordinator at Cincinnati for that game? The head coach Freeman. And then last year, Army plays LSU. LSU just smokes us 63-0. Who was the offensive coordinator for LSU? It was the current offensive coordinator for Notre Dame, whose name I forgot to write down. But the long and the short is, Notre Dame, they really have some distinct advantages here. I'm not going to say it's impossible for Army to win. I think it's going to be a fantastic game. 7 o'clock on NBC, prime time. Everybody needs to tune in. Other games going on this week in the American. Temple is going to UTSA. That's a Friday game, so by the time you're watching this, that game is over. As I mentioned, Temple, they fired their head coach this week. The DC, Everett Withers, he's going to be the interim. UTSA is on the rise. I think they're going to walk over the Owls, to be honest. We have Rice traveling to UAB. Rice, they're doing a little up and down this year. They've had some terrible games. They ended up beating Navy. Meanwhile, UAB, Trent Dilfer, he's telling stories about being a high school coach, and laughing in these post-game press conferences. I don't know what's going on in Birmingham. And I don't even know how to call this game. I mean, it's Rice, UAB. Who's going to show up? Who knows? Charlotte is going to Florida Atlantic. Both of these teams fired their coaches this week. Tim Brewster, the tight ends coach at Charlotte, he's going to be the interim head coach. Chad Lunsford, he is going to be in as the head coach interim for Florida Atlantic. His first order of business was to rehire Rock Bellatoni, who was the defensive coordinator for Florida Atlantic until November 10th, when Tom Herman fired him. Now that Herman is out, the interim head coach, the first thing he does is he hires the DC back. So I don't know how this is going to go. This is another one that's just unpickable. It's going to be in Boca Raton. Who knows? ECU is going to North Texas. ECU on the rise, 3-0 since that Army lost, right? They got blown out by Army. They fired their head coach. They changed their quarterback, and now they're 3-0. North Texas, they look like they're fading. They're 0-4 in their last 4. They started 5-1 with this incredible offense, and they're 0-4. So maybe they're able to rebound, but I think ECU is going to go into Denton and kind of slap them around. I think we are watching North Texas disintegrate. They are 1 win away from being bowl eligible. I'm not sure they're going to get there this year. And then the last game is we have Tulsa going to USF. Byron Brown still out, still nowhere to be seen, no reports. The rumors are that he's already decided to hit the transfer portal, so as a result, he's not going to play anymore this year. It's unclear how true that is. Tulsa, meanwhile, they're 1-4 in their last 5. This is how it goes when you're a fan of the AAC. You got big games at the top that are really exciting with big implications, and then you got a lot of games at the bottom that are just sort of games. So I'm going to get out of here. Thank you so much for your time. Thank God for football. Go Army, beat Notre Dame.
Hello, everybody. This is Jay with your Southern Conference news and notes for this week. Was able to go to East Tennessee State this past weekend and watch Furman get an upset win over East Tennessee State. That was an amazing win. I wasn't expecting it. Like I told everybody, I thought they could, but I didn't think they would have a chance to. East Tennessee State, great team. I was able to get the win. Of course, Wofford was not able to get their win, and VMI also went down. Just a crazy week in the Southern Conference. So let's go with this week's news and notes and see what we are dealing with. Well, we've got 6 games with Southern Conference teams this week, so let's get right to it. We got ETSU Going to VMI this week. ETSU, I think, will bounce back after the loss to Furman. They'll take on a VMI team that's had a rough year, a VMI team whose only win is against Furman. So VMI still has a puncher's chance, but give me ETSU in this game. I expect them to win big. Then we have UTC, that's University of Tennessee Chattanooga, taking on APSU. I don't know enough about APSU. I looked up a little bit, seen a couple of their stats. I think this is going to be a game that Chattanooga goes in and gets the win. Give me UT Chattanooga to get the win this weekend. Furman travels down to Mercer. This is a 3 o'clock game. Talked to Coach today. Furman has a good chance. They've had a good week of practice last week and then had a great one on Sunday. Took the day off. Furman has nothing to lose. Mercer is your conference champions. I look at this game like Furman did last year when they went down to play Wofford, and Wofford upset them last year and really put their playoff spoils their playoff run into a little bit of a juncture. But anyway, give me Mercer in this game. I don't want to pick against Furman, but I really think Mercer has the better team at this point. Furman is learning. They got a lot of great guys. They still have a chance to win this game, but I think Mercer will pull it out. It's going to be a close game, but give me Mercer in this game. And next game we go to is Western Carolina taking on Samford. Samford is a team that from week to week, we don't know which team's going to show up. Western Carolina has had an up and down year themselves. I tell you, this game, I have tried to figure out who I'm going to go with. Give me Western Carolina in this game over Samford. I think they go down there and get the win, even though they are without their starting quarterback. Samford's been up and down, but give me Western Carolina in this game. The Citadel travels to Clemson. This game is not going to be pretty. It's going to be over by halftime. Give me Clemson over the Citadel. I love Citadel guys. What can you say about the Citadel Bulldogs? But they're just not going to beat the Clemson Tigers. Then another team that's facing a major team is Wofford goes to the University of South Carolina. South Carolina has been playing so much better. They're now ranked, so I just do not see Wofford coming out of this game with a win. Give me the Gamecocks, and I hate even saying that word, Gamecocks win together. But Carolina gets it done. So I got ETSU, UT Chattanooga, Mercer, Western Carolina, Clemson, and South Carolina over the Southern Conference teams this week. All right, folks, that's my news and notes for the Southern Conference. Also, real quick congratulations to the SoCon soccer champions, the Furman Paladins. Y'all have a great week. This has been Jay for TGFF Game Day.
Hey, everybody. It's Adam with the Mountain West portion of the show. Got a lot to get to this week, lots of big games, everything's on the line. But first, let's recap last week's action. New Mexico stunned Washington State by a final of 38-35. Huge win for the Lobos. They get to within one win of bowl eligibility in Bronco Mendenhall's first year. They have a chance to take care of that next week when they travel to Hawaii to meet the Rainbow Warriors. They're off this week, so no big game on the line for them. Boise State took care of San Jose State 42-21. That win gets the Broncos within one win of the Mountain West Championship game, which they can do this weekend, and we'll preview that game coming up here in a little bit, as will you guys later on in the show. Colorado State beat Wyoming 24-10. They are 2 wins away from making the Mountain West Conference Championship game, or if they just win this weekend and UNLV happens to stub their toe and lose, and that will put the Rams in the Mountain West Conference Championship game. UNLV beat San Diego State 41-20. They end San Diego State's bowl chances. They have a chance, as my light goes out, and there's back on. They do have a chance to make the Mountain West Championship game. They have to win out and then hope Colorado State loses at least one game. Utah State beat Hawaii 55-10. That ends the Rainbow Warriors bowl chances, although the Rainbow Warriors still have a lot to play for next week when they take on New Mexico. They could prevent the Lobos from making the bowl season. And Air Force, they won their second in a row, although they're not going to make a bowl game, but still step in the right direction for the Falcons as they beat Oregon State 28-0. All right, time to get to this week's action. We talked about it earlier. Everything is pretty much on the line for a lot of teams this week. We'll start with our game of the week, and that will happen in Fresno as Colorado State takes on Fresno State. That game's at 8:30 p.m. Mountain Time, 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time on CBS Sports Network on Saturday. Fresno State, they just need one win to become bowl eligible, but they've lost 2 games in a row. Their rushing attack has gone away. In fact, 14 combined yards in the last 2 games in rushing, and they've lost both of those games. So, I mean, maybe not a coincidence there. If it happens again this weekend, it's going to be tough to beat the Rams because all the Rams will want to do is rely on the run. They're going to try to grind one out. They've gone for over 100 yards combined as a team in every single game this year. They're averaging 190 yards a game. Or their defense, they've gotten a little shaky of late. They've given up 400 yards in 4 of their last 6 games. They have relied on a +5 turnover margin in that time period. So this is a bend but don't break kind of defense for Colorado State. Expect them to kind of do the same here. And like I said, grind one out. They should beat Fresno State. I give them the nod at 24-17, which again leaves Fresno State 1 win away from bowl eligibility. All kinds of stuff happening here, all kinds of equipment. Game number 2 of the week will be UNLV taking on Fresno State. UNLV, like we said earlier, they need to win out, and they need to have a Colorado State loss in one of their last 2 games in order to make the Mountain West Championship game against Boise State, which looks like will happen anyway. Boise State still 1 win away, but, you know, I don't think they're going to lose this weekend. San Jose State throws the ball on everyone. They threw for 446 yards against the Broncos last week, and their defense has given up more than 400 yards of offense in 6 of their last 7 games, meaning, yeah, they're going to be throwing the football. The Spartans are bowl eligible, so they've got nothing to lose. I mean, they can play spoiler in the title race in this one. If they beat UNLV, they basically eliminate them. The Rebs, they have gone for over 400 yards of offense in 5 of their 10 games this year, so their offense looks pretty solid versus a shaky San Jose State defense. UNLV will look to run the football, averaging 250 yards rushing a game. They're going to look to continue that in this one, as hopefully, for their sake and my prediction's sake, they will own ball control over the Spartans' high-flying offense. Expect UNLV to win this one 42-28. Our third game of the week is Boise State taking on Wyoming, which you guys will touch on during this show, no doubt. I'm going to go ahead and touch on it too. That game's at 5 p.m. Mountain Time on CBS Sports Net on Saturday. I forgot to tell you real quick, going back to the UNLV San Jose State game, that game's on Friday night at 8 p.m. Mountain Time, 10 Eastern on Fox Sports 1. Back to Boise State and Wyoming. Wyoming gives up 201 yards a game on the ground. This could be a huge game for Ashton Jeanty as he's looking to try to get back into the Heisman hunt. The Cowboys have allowed over 400 yards they allowed 400 yards in rushing a couple of weeks ago against New Mexico. They also gave up close to 250 yards rushing last week against Colorado State. A win by Boise State here clinches the Mountain West Championship game for them. I expect Boise State to run all over the Cowboys in this one, 49-14. Ashton Jeanty with a huge game. A nice late season push here to try to get not only to New York, but maybe steal some Heisman votes away. Elsewhere, there's 2 other contests on the docket this weekend. Air Force travels to Nevada. San Diego State will take on Utah State. Both of those games, all 4 teams in both of those games, no hope in bowl eligibility, so they're just playing for pride here at the end of the season. All right, that'll do it for me. Give me a follow on X at SSN New Mexico. Have a great weekend.
Hello, everybody. It's your old pal, Uncle Bobby. You love Arden's Burger and Grill because you know what? I got me a sampler platter. That's right. She made me a sampler platter of everything Uncle Bobby loves. Look at there. We got the s'mores French toast. Ooh, we got some wings. And we got the powdered burger. And you know what, Uncle Bobby? He loves some wings, I'm telling you right now. You will not miss. I'll tell you, the double dip wings will make you double dip crazy. I'm telling you right now, it's the best thing you ever put in your mouth. Oh yeah, and French toast. Hey, they serve breakfast all day long. Uncle Bobby loves them from French toast. And folks, the paladin burger. Ooh, blueberry barbecue sauce, smoked Gouda cheese. Yum yum. Make sure you get down here to Arden's Burger and Grill Central. Uncle Bobby, I commend it, recommend it, everything that is amended. I do it here at Arden's Burger and Grill in Central South Carolina. And don't forget, they're going to open a place called Beef and Ribbies. That's right, it's going to be so good it sticks to your ribbies and makes you do this all day long. I'm telling you right now, come to Arden's Burger and Grill. TGF Game Day, we're here.
Hello, everybody. This is TGFF Game Day with a very special edition. That's right. The guest picker brought to you by Arden's Burger and Grill this week is now the man behind the name. That's right. You're looking at Arden. He's right here with his paper in his hand, and his brother Astor. They're going to be here with us today giving us the picks. Let's go straight to the Arden's Burger and Grill Central picks of the week. All right. Arden, who you got, Indiana or Ohio State?
Ohio State.
Ohio State? Wow, who you got?
Ohio State.
Oh, there you go. 2 Ohio States. Next up, Wake Forest at Miami.
Miami.
Ooh, who you
Miami.
got? 2 Miamis. They're agreeing on this. All right. Ole Miss goes to Florida.
Ole Miss. Ole Miss.
There you go. I like that one right there. SMU goes to Virginia.
SMU.
SMU, all right. Cincinnati at Kansas State.
Kansas State. Kansas State.
Boy, they're just agreeing on each one of these. All right, BYU versus Arizona State.
BYU.
All right. Furman at Mercer.
Furman.
Oh, wow. Boy, Esther got on that one first. They both picking the Paladins. There you go. Montana versus Montana State.
Montana. Montana.
All right. Georgia State versus Texas State.
Georgia State. Georgia State.
Oh, that's a good game. All right. Boise State goes to Wyoming.
Boise State.
Boise State and Wyoming.
Wyoming.
All right, they're separated on that one. All right, USC versus UCLA.
UCLA. UCLA.
So which one you want, USC or UCLA?
UCLA.
All right, there you heard it, folks. They're agreeing on that one. Colorado at Kansas.
Kansas. Colorado.
Woo, they're separated on that one. And finally, the game of the week, Army against Notre Dame.
Notre Dame. Army.
Oh, go. There you go. We're talking about West Point. Appreciate y'all doing it this week. This has been the Arden's Burger and Grill in Central South Carolina. That's right. This is Arden. This is Astor. Come by, see them. They'll be glad to talk to you. They are some of the best young men that you can find on this planet. And we appreciate them being our guest pickers this week. Y'all say anything you want.
Bye.
TGFF, back up for football. Game day. 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 You have tuned in to another episode of Thank God for Football, brought to you by the Fanboys, powered by Greenville Sports Media.